Thank you for listening to the second episode of the Forward Project. Today I am honored to be joined by the one and only First Sergeant John McLaughlin. Thank you for joining us today.
Oh, well, thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
My first question is always the same first question I have for everybody, and that would be, what inspired you to join the greatest army on earth?
Well, I always had a love for the military, and then I was in my room. There was always posters, and I'm telling you, posters of Air Force, Army, Marines, the Navy. I mean, I had posters up my whole life. But obviously the significant love was for the Army. Why?
Yeah.
Because my grandfather served in World War II. My dad got pulled for Vietnam, so they had served in the Army. And I think it was just, something that was in the family. And my parents couldn't afford for me to go to college, so that was one way that I was going to be able to get to college, through the GI Bill and loan repayment and stuff like that.
So you mentioned your grandpa and your dad both served. Did they ever try to deter you? Maybe from their own experiences, saying like this is a serious, like it's not just a college, loan. It's a serious business that you could be getting into. Or
at that time, no. I mean, they thought it was a great. I mean, we weren't well off, so it was a great starter, starter career. But they did make sure that I had a job that I ended up trying to at least find a good career that if I didn't stay full-time in the Army, that I would be able to transition to civilian life. So they said, they were really very poignant about that, saying, find a job that you can move over into the civilian career.
That's very important. So you mentioned you were going to college at the same time. So what component of the Army did you initially join?
Well, it's first active duty. Active duty, because of the GI Bill. And then once I got into college, then I stayed in the reserves. So spent a little bit of time in Germany.
So you had an understanding of German before you went to Germany, correct? Or?
Yes, I took German in high school. And I'm a German teacher now, obviously.
Yeah.
But I loved it, and it's something that was very interesting to me. And I didn't even know I was going to be in Germany. It was just a 12B and 12Bs. 12 Bravo, if you don't know that, guys, is a combat engineer. And there were a lot in Germany at the time. So it was like, so we spent half the year out in the field.
Wow.
So it's like
6-month FTX.
Right, that's basically not at all at once, but definitely half your year was spent in the field all the time.
Did you think that your high school German maybe helped communicate with maybe the German forces or with the German civilians or?
Yeah, I mean, I really did. It did help me. It definitely helped me. We had to go through classes over there as well, so that was very helpful. But it gave me a great base, what I mean? And then I could get really fluent while I was over there, which was super important, I think. But it didn't hurt the camaraderie between the guys and how it's a young man's game, you know what I mean? Sure. It's a young man's game and fun,
Yeah. So you arrive at college. Do you feel different than maybe the other college students, fresh out of high school, because you're already coming in with a little bit of life experience? And
that's for sure. Being a non-traditional student, a little bit more serious, already have that that party atmosphere already out, but not totally out of me, obviously. But definitely able to know how much is too much, you know what I mean? And a balance, a good balance, and learned a lot. In Germany, you learn how to balance everything, so it was not bad. So so it definitely helped. It definitely helped allow me to do a very good job in college and get good grades.
So how long did you stay in the reserves for?
I was in the reserves for 21 years total. So 6 years total active duty, 21 years. With the reserves. So, and it was amazing. I know that people think that, it's the reserves, it's 1 week a month, 2 months out of the year. But what I like about reserves, and I know that you're in the National Guard, is you bring another job skill set to the reserves.
Yep. It's almost harder in certain aspects because you have to balance what's going on in between drill weekends, but you still have to stay in shape because you still have the same PT test as the active duty guys. And, you're you still have the same requirements. You're still qualing every year. You know, you still have to prove that you know your MOS just as well as they do.
Right, and you got to be and your stuff's got to be tight. You know, it's got to be ready to go at a moment's notice.
Yep.
And you never know, especially when things were starting to get serious. Everybody's go bag was ready. Everybody was filling out the forms.
Yeah.
So it was it was really, really important to have everything, tight, especially because your vehicles weren't exercised as much as the active duty guys' vehicles were exercised.
For sure. So you mentioned go bags. When you find out, for any deployment, you find out what's going through your mind when you first receive those orders?
Well, it was really funny because I didn't even know I had my orders, and my command sergeant major called me, and we had a great relationship over the years, and got to make him look good, So he called me and he said, "Guess what?" I said, "Oh no, man, you got deployed."
Yeah.
He said, "Nope, but you did." So I was like, "Thanks." So he said, "They want you to report tomorrow." And I said,
"Wow,
I can't report. It's Friday. It was Friday afternoon." So I said, "Well, I got to get some stuff organized. Got to get the paperwork ready." So I got him to move it back to Tuesday. So I left that Tuesday. I found out Friday afternoon, and obviously in the weekend nothing's open. The banks, or you can't get anything done with the banks.
So you couldn't get anything really squared away.
Right, exactly. Lawyers
sitting there and pondering.
So I just made sure that I spent time with family. Monday morning, got everything ready, and left Tuesday.
Wow.
And got to Lewis, Delaware. Involuntarily transferred as a 12. I mean, 88 Mike, not a 12B anymore. But an 88 Mike, because I was 12B. For a long time, and that's a combat. And who doesn't like to blow things up?
The recruiter shows you the video. He brings in the cart, and he's like, "Look at these guys blowing things up." You're like, "That's gonna be me right there."
That's exactly right. They don't tell you they have to put out landmines, or try to maybe defuse a booby trap or something like that instead of blowing it up, maybe. But they don't tell you that stuff. But it was fun. It was definitely fun, but a young man's game. And then I ended up teaching A-knock and B-knock. And if you don't know what that is, it's basically getting you ready to become a sergeant and become a staff sergeant, higher NCO. So I ended up trying to get promoted, So, and then I got promoted into a school, basically, where I had to teach A-knock and B-knock. And what do you do what did I do in the summer? I had to teach 88 Mike. And I wasn't even an 88 Mike, but I got the job. I got the job, so I ended up taking the MOS qualifications and got the job. So I was teaching 88 Mike so I got the 88 Mike MOS, and that's how I got invalid transfer. That's the 88 Mike. Never, was messing around with it until
they
deployed.
Offered it to
But I was the truck master, so I wasn't really driving all that much. But I did drive, obviously, while I was over there.
Well, and that's also common for reservists and guardsmen to have shorter call-ups because the units are smaller. So it's actually easier. It's less signatures for the Army to have to get to send them over. So a lot of the active duty units, is tens of thousands of soldiers, and that's a lot of people. You can't just move them out.
Right.
Whereas reservists and guardsmen, you can almost nitpick who you want to go.
Right, that's exactly right. We were a medium truck company, and they had just got brand new vehicles. They were brand new Freightliners. They did. I mean, when I got in the first vehicle, it had 21 miles on it. 21 miles. It hadn't even been broken in yet. And then they were a fueling company, and obviously fuel makes everybody move. So we were a fueling company. So they're very important.
Bullets don't fly without supply.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
So you get on that deployment. Is that your first deployment during a conflict? Or
yes, that was the only deployment. 2003. We head over to Fort Dix. We were in Lewis, Delaware for a couple weeks, getting everybody. I mean, we had 14 different states represented. I mean, we were a mismatch from everywhere. You know what I mean? It's like they pulled people from Virginia. We had people from Michigan. We had people as far away as Oregon. So they all came together, Lewis, Delaware. We got everybody put in the right places, and then we headed to Fort Dix, which wasn't too far away, obviously. But then we spent 3 months training because a lot of people had never hauled fuel before, and it's very difficult because there's no baffles, and the swash will put you right through a light, like a traffic light. So you got to be really careful. If you go around a turn, you see those turns. When you exit off, like. It turn you over, and we did. We had a kid turn one over. We had a kid push the whole vehicle right through a stoplight. But that's what we had to do. We had to practice.
Yep.
We had to practice for those good 3 months. And then in March, we got called up, and we moved our trucks, and they went to Iraq.
Yeah. And I mean, people talk about on the civilian side getting your CDL is difficult, but then if you're overseas truck driving, it's a whole different field because, like you already mentioned, there's landmines, there's IEDs everywhere, and you have to kind of focus on that as well as maneuvering this vehicle that is not easy to maneuver when that stuff's not there.
Right.
So,
the biggest thing that we had was they pounded rebar into the roads.
Wow.
So they would blow our tires.
Okay.
But obviously we had dualies, so if you blew a front tire, it'd be bad. But we could get through it. But if you were off the day, like if you had to run, if you were off that day, what were you doing? You were changing tires for the guys that were on the road because they were good at it. And we'd report the rebar, they take it out, and in the middle of the night they put it right back in.
Wow. So how long was that deployment?
That was a year.
Okay.
That was a year. The deployment was a year.
Wow.
So it was, what happened was we ended up getting, it's really a crazy story, but we ended up getting into Kuwait. So that's where we came in to Kuwait. And we're sitting in sleeping in our warehouse.
Yeah.
And they come in and say, we're looking for the 946 medical company.
Yeah.
And it's like, 946 medical, that's crazy because we're the 946 medium. We're not medical. We're medium truck. And I said, well, and it's called MED-TRK, MED. And really, I think that they messed up and they thought we were medicals because there was a cache at the unit.
Wow.
Right. So they really messed up and brought a medium truck company over. And they thought we were a medical company.
Yes, no way.
Yes, exactly. So they had to find. We were there.
Yeah,
our trucks were on. Our trucks are on their way. They're on the boat. So it's like, what are they going to do? So they put us under theater group, the 38th theater group.
Okay.
And they gave us jobs to do. They had trucks for us, and everything. So obviously it was great that we were there because we were able to help out.
Yeah.
But we definitely weren't a medical company.
I'm surprised they didn't just start throwing you guys in TCCC and start, all right, y'all are 68 whiskeys now.
Yes,
no in the Army.
Change up. Okay, 2 weeks you're going to be this.
Yep.
But I was the truck master there, and there was 3 of us as truck masters. So basically what truck masters is it's the logistics of everything. This is how many trucks you have. This is where it's going, and put everybody. But as we were there for a month, they needed somebody to move up to Iraq.
Okay.
But they didn't need the whole company.
Yeah.
They didn't want the whole company. They just wanted one platoon.
Yeah.
So the truck masters, I was single at the time.
Yeah.
My other 2 truck masters had kids. They had families.
You figured you had less to lose.
Yeah. So we had that conversation. Said, well, we got to talk about who's going to go up. I said, there's no discussion. There's no discussion. I don't have an immediate family. I have my mom and dad. I have my sister.
Yeah.
But it's me that's got to go up. You guys, we don't want to put you in harm's way. You're in harm's way enough.
Yeah.
So I ended up going up, and we, going up to Iraq with the one platoon, and then we split out the platoons. But I always stayed there with the supply guys and 2 maintenance guys.
Wow.
So we always, and then the platoons rotated out.
Okay. What cities in Iraq did you transfer out to?
Well, we went to Najaf because we had to haul fuel to a power plant there a lot, and then the bag farm in Balad, Iraq, which is right outside the airport. So it was Balad, Iraq, is where the airport was. So they had bag farms, and what bag farms are is that's where you put the fuel at. When you bring it there, you put the fuel in the bags.
Yeah.
So but it takes a long time to download your fuel. Yeah. So it takes, it could take up to 8 hours, the whole convoy to download the fuel. So basically we're just going back and forth, and forth, filling up these bags.
Yeah.
And that's, and then I wouldn't go every time, but to spell people, because I'm still an 88 mic, so to spell a couple people, what I did was I'd give them a break, and then I'd go on the road, because it's nice to know what's happening. So I would say about once a week I'd go on the road. Yeah. Now the one time I went on the road, and it was we were there for 32 days straight. Wow. You know what I mean? So we never got back for 32 days straight because they kept putting us somewhere and taking us somewhere and hauling this fuel there and grabbing. and unhooking and taking freight somewhere.
Yeah.
So we were on the road for 32 days straight once. It was, and trying to beg for MREs.
Yeah.
MREs forever, man. It was crazy.
So what rank were you when you were in Iraq? Because you taught at A-Lock before that, right?
A-Knock, yep,
A-Knock,
yep.
and B-Knock.
Yeah.
And
So A-Knock, I got the A-Knock when I was a staff sergeant, and then sergeant first class. So
Okay.
I was sergeant first class when I got called up. But it was kind of weird because I got sergeant first class in we called it a hotel company, but basically it was a theater deployment operations battalion. And what that is basically if you would call us if you needed some bodies. Like say some of your guys ended up deploying somewhere else and you needed 4 or 5 guys, you would call us and say, hey, we need 388 mics, and we would say that's where I was when I got called up. So I was a sergeant first class because, as you know, promotions, it's hard. You know, even in the Guard, you have to wait for a slot to open. So I'm always like, where can I go? Where can I go to get promoted? Because I want to be promoted, obviously. But so I was in that hotel unit, what I called a hotel unit at the time for theater operations.
I mean, being an E7 and letting the guys rest sometimes, and you going out there. I mean, a lot of E7s wouldn't do that. They would feel that they've been through the ringer and that they're no longer in a leadership position, but that's what they is in their mind. They're just leaders. They're not gonna get dirty. So that was cool that you got dirty even as an E7.
Well, sure. I mean, and that's what I always want to say. You got to be a role model. I mean, E5s, I like to get dirty. You know what I mean? I'm a teacher, obviously, but I always love to get dirty. I mean, I grew up on a farm. You know what I mean? So it was super important to me. So I loved that. So I still don't mind to get dirty. I mean, I loved it. Even when I was in vehicle operations, I would stay out in the mud, and they wouldn't even let me in the chow hall because I was so muddy. They wouldn't even. So they just brought my food. They said, from now on, we'll just bring the food to you because it's like, but I love that. I love that about it, and I think they appreciate you more and they understand. It's like, I know what you're going through. I've been through that, and you have too. You have too. And if I mean, I know you're in the Guard and you're thinking about maybe being an officer. I mean, you're messing around with that. Well, but maybe you don't want to be.
How could it work? How could it work?
I mean, but you'll definitely get more respect because you went through it. You went through it. You've been there. You've been in the weeds with them.
So when you return home, how long is it before you get promoted to first sergeant?
Well, to be honest with you, I got in E8 while I was deployed. While I was deployed, you could put in your packet, as well. And then I had some friends help me with my packet back here. And I ended up getting my E8. And for the 630th detachment that was in Greencastle, PA, not Greensburg, but Greencastle, PA. So it's near Hagerstown, Maryland. So it's pretty far away. So I have to stay in a hotel. But I was the 630th. Now 630th Transportation Company is right here in Washington, PA. It's right down here in Washington, PA. And I ended up being the first sergeant. That's what my end station was the first sergeant for the 630th. But I was just a master sergeant for the detachment because it was just like an attachment from the 630th.
Did you have your diamond though?
No, I did not have my diamond.
So it was a first sergeant billet.
Yeah.
Filled by a master sergeant.
Right, exactly.
Okay,
exactly. But then I got my first sergeant when the first sergeant retired up at 630 Washington, and then I moved with them. I moved up to the 630th because it was closer to home. It was right near the school, so it was perfect. It was perfect for us. So as soon as I got done with school, I go to rifle practice, and then rifle practice straight to the
And you don't have to call off work on Monday.
Nope. It's awesome. A lot of work. And that's one of the questions you asked me a long time ago was, what's the difference between E5 and E6, E7, and E8? And I would say the higher you go, the more responsibility. The less work with the troops that you get. Relying on your subordinates, I have to make sure that my sergeants take care of their people, but I have to take care of everybody. And not just, I got to think about their futures. What's the best thing for them? Like if you're an E6 and I want you to get E7, I need to get you E7 somehow. If that's what you want, is that a goal that you want? So I got to make sure that you go to the right schools. So, and
I'm sure there are some NCOs who are like, hey, I'm a E6, I'm a squad leader, that's good enough for me. And then, I don't want the E7. And then there's certain guys, they're like, I'll take it as soon as you offer it, Right, and sometimes you need to push that guy because, you were on top of that tower in basic training. And you didn't want to go, you didn't want to climb up there.
and and you didn't think you could do it, but you needed to push a little bit, and they're like, oh,
Yeah.
I don't think I can do it. And then I got to learn my guys and find out, is he capable of doing E7? Is he capable of doing E7? I think he is. He just doesn't think he can, so he needs a push. But there's other guys that think they should be the first sergeant, but maybe they shouldn't be. Stay at E6 or E5 or something like that. But it's a paperwork shuffle. When you get higher, it's always the paperwork shuffle.
So, unfortunately, we're having a little bit of time constraint, so we are going to have to wrap it up. But I have one last question, and it's my favorite question I could ask anyone on the show, and that is, what advice would you have for somebody who's feeling lost in the civilian world with military experience?
Probably the most important question you could ask me. To say it's a lot of feelings. It's important to surround yourself with family.
Yeah.
Especially when you're transitioning back to the normal world.
Yeah.
Instead of moving home to my house where I was single, I moved right into my sister and her husband, and they had a niece.
Yeah.
And my mom and dad lived right across the creek from them.
Yeah.
So it's like, I lived on a farm.
Yeah.
So it was something that I needed to do. I knew that I shouldn't be alone thinking those thoughts, because I'd always been running those thoughts in my head, what I went through.
Yeah.
And I was hyper aware, and then everybody's going to have nightmares, what happened. I wasn't alone thinking about all those things, and adjustment was going to be hard enough, I thought. So I couldn't imagine where my mind would have taken me if I hadn't just tried to keep myself busy and doing stuff on the farm, just doing, so I did that. But family first, I think, and we're not just talking immediate family, we're talking about your military family.
Yeah.
You have a brother, you have brothers, you've left brothers. Your brothers came with you. When with the deployment, I still talk to those guys even 25 years later.
It's not a bad idea. Just call them up. How you doing?
Right. Checking in on them. Yep. Exactly. But those guys that are struggling, you made it back here.
Yeah.
You were successful over there. Yep. You can be successful again. You can be. Some of our brothers and sisters didn't make it back. Some of them didn't make it back. And others came back maimed or hurt.
I love that. You can be successful again.
Yeah, you can. I want to live a good life to honor those who gave me the opportunity to continue to do the stuff that I love.
Yeah.
And I think that's important. Like, to honor those people that didn't make it back, or they can't. Even if you're maimed or hurt, you see all those stories where it's all about the attitude.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you can be successful again. It's just one step at a time. 1 minute at a time, one small goal at a time. And therapies in many forms. Art therapy helped my dad with his demons. Animal therapy helped my grandfather. I know that. And musical therapy, and especially my therapist, has helped me tremendously work throughout my many issues. You know what I mean? As you know. But the engineer motto is Esseance, buddy.
Yeah.
Esseance is we will try, and our best no matter what. I would just say together. We will try together. Veterans, brothers and sisters will always be there for you, standing beside you, standing with you. You know that even now. I mean, you had a tough time in basic. You just came back from basic, and but you guys stood it together. You were strong together, and helping each other make it through. And the important part is together.